Thank you for checking out this episode of Wiregrass Daily News Sports. You can find the podcast over at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you just leave 4 stars, you are just a straight up hater. You can follow me on social media over at PJordanSEC. You can email me at sportstalkphillipjordan@gmail.com. Welcome in to the Wednesday edition here on Talking Sports on Wiregrass Daily News Sports. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan, in studio host and producer, Dutton Wills football and Auburn writer for Last Word on college football. And flying solo, this is no guest here on this Wednesday. And from time to time, we're not going to have a guest every single day here on the show. So sometimes we'll do that. I'll just jump on here for maybe 10, 15 minutes, give my thoughts on some news of the day, kind of like calling Jordan's takes. Just kind of roll with it like that. And as we are coming here on a Wednesday, last night on Tuesday night, the latest college football playoff rankings came out. And we're going to discuss that. That's going to be the meat of this conversation. Also going to talk about some Auburn basketball. They had their opener on Tuesday night. I'll watch that. And then also some recruiting news for a player in the Wiregrass and our kind of coverage area with high school football, but it also connects with Auburn football. So we will talk about that too here on the show. And hopefully down the road when we do ones like this, I can maybe get some feedback, some questions, some topic ideas, something to talk about with people here on the show. But anyways, let's jump into it. The college football playoff rankings came out again, the second one on Tuesday, and not a lot of change, especially when you look at 1 through 6. Number one is still Ohio State at 9-0. You have number 2 is Georgia. Number 3 is Michigan. Number 4 is Florida State, same as it was last week. And you still have Washington at 5 and Oregon at 6, sitting on the outside. Always kind of paying attention to that 5 and 6 spot. At 7, you have Texas, and then at 8, you have it Alabama. Number 9 is Ole Miss, and number 10 is Penn State. And just we're going to a 12-team playoff next year, so let's just go 12. 11 is Louisville. All right, now looking like the second best team in the ACC. And number 12 is Oregon State. So, who would I have right now? And I think Ohio State has a really good resume. I think the resume is a whole lot better than Michigan. I know some people out there will be promoting Michigan, and the committee was talking about tonight that had no bearing what's going on with Michigan on what they're doing here. They're ranking these teams by what to see on the field. Of course, for Florida State at 9-0. So I guess maybe you could debate, should it be Florida State? Should it be Washington? Florida State's got some solid victories, not as good as they once were. The Clemson win is not as good since Clemson now has 4 losses. And now LSU has 3 losses, where they lost to Alabama, they lost to Florida State, of course, and they lost to Ole Miss. And then look, Georgia, defending champions, but they have playing better teams here of late. They beat a really good Missouri team this past week. They've beaten some average to solid teams so far. And Michigan, the thing about them, they've been dominant, but they haven't played anybody. Um, let's actually look at that. Let's talk about that. Michigan, the teams they have beaten East Carolina, UNLV, which UNLV is solid. They're 7-2 team. Barry Odom's doing really good there with that team. Bowling Green, they beat them. Rutgers is a solid team, and the committee actually gave Ohio State some credit for that win because Rutgers has been good this year. Average team, much better than they have been. Nebraska, they beat Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, and they beat Purdue. But now, they do have number 10 Penn State coming this Saturday. Then they'll play Maryland. Of course, they have Ohio State. So when you look at it from the Michigan side of things, there's some big games coming up that can change your minds. Okay, are they really this good? Are they really one of the best teams? We see how dominant they are, but they haven't played anybody. Now, with the Florida State Seminoles, right now, the schedule they have, they should hold serve at least until they get to the ACC championship game. Miami this week. Miami's a 3-loss team. Miami's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. Then you have North Alabama, and then you have the at Florida game there at the end with Florida. I mean, I know that's not one of the teams we're talking about here at the playoffs, but they got LSU this week, Missouri next week, and then Florida State the following week. This is a team with 5 wins. They're 5-4, but they could be looking at 5-7. Losing that game against Arkansas really hurt them there. And then you look at Texas and Alabama. Obviously, Texas getting the edge there because they beat Alabama. Now, Texas has not played great as of late. Um, they've had some struggles with some teams. They struggled with Kansas State a few weeks ago at Houston. That was a struggle too as well. But they're without Quinn Ewers. They will be at TCU this week. They have Iowa State and they have Texas Tech. So all teams they should beat, but who knows with how the Big 12 is going. You look at Washington and Oregon at the spots they are in, what they have left coming up. Of course, Washington beat Oregon, and Washington is number 5 team. That they're undefeated. They beat them by 36-33. They do play Utah this weekend. That's a good team. We know they're at Oregon State after that. Then they have Washington State. For Oregon, looking at their schedule left, they have USC this Saturday at 9:30 on Fox. Then you have at Arizona State. Then they close the year out with Oregon State in that one. And of course, with Georgia, just kind of looking at where they stand. You got Ole Miss and Tennessee, 2 ranked teams, and then you close out Georgia Tech. And more than likely, let's just throw it out there, probably playing Alabama in the SEC championship game. So that's kind of like what the layout is with a lot of this. Like I said, I would put Ohio State at 1, Georgia 2. I like it there. I would actually put Florida State over Michigan just because I think Florida State has beaten some better teams. And honestly, when you look at the schedule side of things, you could probably argue Washington over Michigan, but Michigan's been dominant. Washington's had some games where the defense hasn't played great. So we'll see. But here's the thing. You're looking at it if you're Washington or even Oregon, if you want to get back in this thing. Ohio State and Michigan are playing each other in a few weeks. So there's a good chance they could eliminate each other. Because if Georgia wins out, Florida State wins out, they're in. In Washington, you win out, you're in, and now you're looking at Ohio State and Michigan winner as being in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, we got some big games this weekend. Georgia's playing Ole Miss. Ole Miss with 1 loss. They're at 9. I mean, that's a pretty big climb for them. But you get an upset win over Georgia, Alabama. Hopefully for you, they either stumble against Kentucky or against Auburn. And then maybe Ole Miss could get into the playoff that way. But they would have to have a massive upset over Georgia, which I don't see a lot of people coming that way. Michigan and Penn State's this week. Like I said, again, Michigan in a few weeks, they will play Ohio State. And then Washington's got some big matchups too as well. So we'll see. We'll see how all this goes, but we're going to be paying attention to what these teams are doing. Now, let's play a quick little minute and a half promo for you guys for some stuff going on over at DGO Strategies. On the other side, we'll talk some Auburn basketball and some recruiting news. Want a chance to see the Iron Bowl in person? Enter for your chance to win 2 tickets to the Iron Bowl on Saturday, November 25th. To enter, simply complete the form at 969thelegend.com. The winner will be announced on Friday, November 17th.
96.9 The Legend is your connection to classic country legends. But Digio Strategies has other options too. News Talk 103.9 is your source for America's top news and entertainment shows like Rick and Bubba in the morning, Glenn Beck from 9 till 11 a.m., and Clay Travis and Buck Sexton middays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others fill your day with the latest news and views from America's top conservative voices. America at Night and Coast to Coast AM keep you company and connected throughout the night. Plus, Fox News, the Alabama Radio Network, and Wiregrass Daily News keep you informed with national, international, state, and local news. And with more musical choices like All the Hits 106.7 KMX, Today's Country 95.5 WTVY, and Music 107.7. Digio Strategies gives you more choices and more variety. Listen on air, online, and on our apps. 96.9 The Legend is just the beginning.
All right, welcome back into the show. And as we kind of close out a couple things here, Auburn lost to Baylor in their season opener neutral site, 88-82. Baylor ranked 20th in the country. Auburn actually, I mean, they outplayed Baylor for most of this game, and kind of like an issue that was there last year at Auburn and showed to be an issue here. Closing out the game, Auburn did not do that. They led 77-72 with 3:38 left. That's when the TV timeout. Baylor would go on to outscore Auburn 16-5 rest of the game. There's some bad shots. You got to give credit to Baylor defense. They made the plays too as well, and they made the shots, and their offense was working. And like I said, Auburn just could not close the deal on Tuesday night to get the opening victory. Really, when you look at the stats, kind of evenly matched here. Auburn shot 44%, Baylor shot 43%. They were both 9 of 19 from three. A little bit more on that on Auburn in just a second. Free throw wise, Auburn was 17-25 for 68%, and then Baylor was 27-34 for 79%. So Baylor got to the line more than Auburn did. And then rebounds was even 45-44 in favor of Auburn. Now, Auburn had more blocks with 10, and then Baylor had 4. Auburn in the game. Look, I think a big thing here when you look at just from the Auburn standpoint of things, there are some positives to take away from this. Yeah, that's a loss. But, it's not like with football. Everybody knows this. You have some losses early on. You're kind of figuring stuff out, figuring out your team. Bruce Pearl's figuring out where to put certain players here on this team. So it's not reason to freak out. There's some stuff you can see in this game that you can take as positives for Auburn. Janiyah Broome, solid game. He was 4 for 10 from the floor, 16 points overall. He had 11 rebounds, just kind of what you expect out of him. That's a typical Broome game here. And then he was 2 for 3 from three-pointers. So if he can add that element to his game too, big for Auburn, which three-point shooting was an issue last season for Auburn. They were not good at it. And a couple weeks ago here on the show, we talked to Blake Lovell. We brought that up. But Auburn seems to have some more capable shooters on this team. Freshman Aiden Holloway was good in this game, 16 of 15 from the floor, 4 of 8 from three, 19 points. He also has 6 assists. Katie Johnson bringing the energy off the bench. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to him this year. He did this last year too as well. What he can bring to this team off the bench is going to be big, especially from an energy standpoint when Auburn's away from home, where they're not feeding off that Auburn home crowd. Another newcomer, Denver Jones, had 13 points, 35 from three-pointers. So Auburn's got some guys now that can shoot from three, and that's big. We'll see how this team develops throughout the season. Defensively, they did give up 88 points. I don't think Auburn has to be a great defense to be an SEC contender this year, but just solid defense. And if this offense can go kind of how it did tonight, at least for the first 36 minutes, I think Auburn should be okay. Like I said, they got some three-point shooters. You got Broome up front. I mean, that's just, and you also got Jalen Williams also. Auburn's got several good players on this team. Maybe not an individual great player. We'll see what happens with Holloway. Like I said, the freshman played great. I'm very intrigued to see how he develops and how he performs throughout the season, and particularly early part of the year. And as Auburn just kind of figures out who they are and what they're going to be. Now for Baylor, got to give some credit here. Jacoby Walter, a freshman, 28 points, 6 rebounds, and he was 4 of 7 from three. That was a school record for Baylor for a freshman debut. So that was a big reason why Baylor was able to come back and beat Auburn 88-82 on Tuesday night for the season opener. Now Auburn next game will be on Friday night at 7 o'clock on SEC Network Plus. They will be playing Southeast Louisiana. That will be a home game for Auburn. So they'll be back at Auburn Arena. So they should have that big crowd behind them on that one. And look, Auburn should be 1-1 when we head into next week. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about some Auburn hoops in Alabama. And Alabama plays on Friday night too as well. So we'll kind of keep you up to date what's going on with that. And then the last piece of little news before we get out of here, Andalusia running back Jamarian Burnett. Now, over the last week, on the 2nd of November, he decommitted from Auburn, 4-star running back. He put up a post on X or Twitter, whichever one you want to call it, that he was in a Missouri jersey. So it looks like he is now headed to Missouri. We'll see what happens there with Auburn. Auburn still doing some good work in recruiting, but that's kind of like some news passed along that's kind of locally connected and also with Auburn, what's going on there. And that's going to do it here for me, guys. Just like I said, I only was going to spend about 15 minutes with you here today. Remember, you can find me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast available at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, if you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you just leave 4 stars, you are just a straight up hater. You can always email me at sports.phillipjordan@gmail.com and check out all my written work over at Last Word on college football. Everybody has a great Wednesday. Be back on Thursday. We're going to be looking kind of behind enemy lines, previewing the Arkansas and Kentucky side of Auburn, Alabama's matchups for this weekend. We will have Connor Goodson from Razorbacks Wire come back on the show for the Razorbacks Arkansas sorry, cannot talk here. For Kentucky, we will talk with Kevin McGuffin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And for Kentucky, we'll talk to Kevin McGuffey from Last Word on College Football. So it will be a good show on Thursday. And of course, Matt Lowe will join me on Friday. Anyways, hope everybody has a great Wednesday. Till next time. Bye bye.